Able to see the screen, right? All right. So today we'll see the following topics actually. What are those? Let's we see, WebLogic logging service. Then after that, virtual hosting and version differences. So then after that, WebLogic logging service, virtual hosting and version differences. Then after that, let's we see how to recover the admin password whenever you lost. So this is about, admin password recover and reset, how to recover and how to reset. Let's be able to see that part. Right. WebLogic logging service. What we can able to do by using the WebLogic server logging service generally, see WebLogic server logging service generally, it has going to be services to monitor the server and as well as the subsystems and application events. Generally, it has going to be explain about the configuration of the WebLogic server and to write messages to the log files and listen whatever it has going to be for the log messages. Generally, WebLogic server, whenever you start, it has going to be broadcasting the messages and it describes about WebLogic server startup process. And if you set any target the server instances, it is going to be regarding to that application server status also to that log file. Generally, whenever WebLogic server logging service and monitor the server instances and subsystem events and for the server instance. Generally, application logs which needs to be integrated with the WebLogic server log. So generally, developer will do that part actually, integrating their application logs with the WebLogic server logs. This is generally WebLogic server logging service introduction. And logger means this is what actually terminal is about in the logging service. Logger means a logger object generally which is log messages for the specific subsystem or application component. Handler means generally so whatever the logging messages which are going to be collects from the logger and that is going to be handles. Handler generally it is going to be receives those requests and sent to the logger. Appender generally which will use this terminology in the Apache Log4j. So that is about the logging service terminology. Let's we see what are the default logging implementations which are available in the WebLogic server. There are two logging implementations which are available: JDK logging implementations by default and Log4j logging implementation. So this is another logging implementations. Go to here, expand the server and click on the server instances and click on the server. So click on the server, generally any one of the server, every tab which we may have the one tab called lagging tab and click on the lagging tab and go to the advanced. go to advanced here, click on see here logging implementations, click on logging implementations. By default is JDK, and even whenever it required log4j also can able to select. Whenever the developers they are going to be integrating application logs with the log4j, then we can able to select here, specify whether the server logging is based on the log4j implemented or by default. We can able to specify. So that is about the logging implementation. Let's we see, understanding the WebLogic server logging service. What it is going to be doing, it facilitates for writing, viewing, filtering, and listening for the log messages. And these log messages are generally which is generated by the WebLogic server instances and subsystems and G2W applications that run on the WebLogic server or client Java, client JVM, so in the sense Java virtual machine. And generally the following diagram which are going to be explained about the logging process generally. These are all the standard Java APIs which needs to be produced the messages and sends to the server logger. Server logger generally which decides and distribute the messages and to the specific handler. If log file belongs to the standard output, it stands, and else file handler. It is going to be distributing like the messages to the different server handlers. And what we can do with the WebLogic logging service generally, WebLogic logging service subsystem, we can use the logging service to provide the information generally about the events such as deployment or newly applications deployed, what about its status, and whether the application is failure or success, and what about the server state, whether it is running or not, everything which we can able to monitor by using the logging service only, and you can troubleshoot by using the logging service only. Each server instance generally it uses them to communicate its status and a response to the specific events. Example, generally WebLogic logging service, it has going to be reports, error condition, and as well as listen for the log messages specific to the subsystem. See, in the WebLogic server logging service, each WebLogic server instance, it may be its own server log, because each WebLogic server domain can run concurrent multiple instances of the WebLogic server. The logging service which is going to be collected messages that are generated on the multiple server instances. While each server instance it has going to be maintains its own log file. So the reason is what, concurrently we are going to be running all the server instances into the WebLogic. At the same time we are going to be running the WebLogic server instances. The time what will happen? It needs to be tracked about its own server instances. That is the reason each server it has going to be maintains its own log file in the domain. Domain wide message logs also, which we can able to like admin server. It is going to be provides overall status of the domain. What is the log message format when you start? This is the log message format generally. This is the timestamp. Then after that, severity, and this is what host name. This is what name of the server, and this is what message ID, and this is what message text. This is what actually by default in this format it is going to be displaying the log message format. What is the log filter generally? Log filter is nothing but a domain log filter which specifies which messages a server sends to the domain log. That will decide by the log filter. And how you can able to configure the log filter? Go to the administration console and click on the domain name and click on the logging. Click on log filter. Click on new. Provide the log filter name and click on OK. After that, we need to be attached to the server. Click on the servers. Click on HMNG1 and click on logging. Go to advanced. Go to the filter and you can select filter name and click on save button, which is going to be decides what kind of messages which are going to be sent to the domain log. That is about the domain filter log filter. Then what are the message attributes and message severities which are available in the WebLogic server logging service? The messages for the all WebLogic server instances, it has going to be maintains the consistent state of attributes. Let's we'll go what are the message attributes actually. These are all the message attributes. Timestamp means the time and date when the messages are going to be originated in the format that's specific to the local time. Severity means which indicates the degree of impact or seriousness about the server and its services. Subsystem means it has going to be particular subsystem WebLogic server instances that was source of the messages, for example EJB, RMI and JMS, all those services which are going to be running or not, which you can able to see under the subsystems. Server name, name of the server, machine name of the machine, thread ID, by using which thread you are running the server instance, transaction ID, is there any transactions was there which is identified or unique by the transaction ID. User ID means by using which user you are running the WebLogic server instances, and message ID means 6-digit message ID. Based on this, which we can able to troubleshooting the issues. And message text means it is going to be displaying brief introduction about the status, whether it is running, failure, or all the status which is displayed under the message text only. These are all the message severities, sorry, message attributes. What are the message severities which are available? Trace, info, notice, warning, error, critical, alert, emergency, and debug. Go to here. See, see all the severities, whatever we have seen just now. What the default state is? Notice, severity level. What are those each severity indicates actually? Informational or info, generally which is used to which is used to reporting the normal operations. Notice means generally an informational message with a higher level of importance, and warning means a suspicious operation or configuration has occurred, but it may not have the impact on the normal operations. But in future, generally, it is going to be giving the impact on the performance. If you do any suspicious operation, immediately it is going to be throws warnings, and you just concentrated on the warnings. At the moment, it cannot able to impact on the performance, but later it is going to be impacts. Error means generally a user generally error has occurred, and critical means generally a system or service error has occurred. The system is able to recover, but there may be a momentary loss. Alert means a particular service is an unusable generally state, while the other part of the system continue to the function. So whenever you will get the any alerts, we need to be concentrated on the alerts, and the recovery is possible immediately. Otherwise, it needs to be resolve those problems. Otherwise, it will give the it leads to the some bottlenecks. Emergency means if the server instance is in an unstable state, unusable state, generally the severity which indicates the server system is going to be failure or panic condition. These are about the severities which are available. So whenever you will get these severities, you can able to come to know and troubleshoot those issues according to the requirement. And how the domain log is going to be generate the logs, and how it is going to be processing server logs generally which is going to be generating the messages and forwarding to the domain logs, and only these domain logs which are going to be associated with the filter. This filter generally which is going to be decides what kind of messages we send to the domain logger or server loggers, and depends on that it is going to be forwards or distributing the messages to the domain logger or a specific server loggers. In this way, messages are going to be distributed in the WebLogic server logging service. Then after that, what are the default log file locations, and what are the different log files which are available in the WebLogic server? Go to here. So these are all the default locations which are available under the WebLogic server. So what are those log files actually? The first one, so admin server logs. Domain home slash server slash admin server name slash log slash domain name. So that is what admin server logs, and manager server logs under the same path only, but with manager server name slash log slash manager server name dot log. Under that manager server logs which are available, even those are called application logs also. Then after that, so JDBC logs generally, JMS logs which is available under this path, JMS logs by default, and JDBC logs which is available under this by default, and virtual host if you configure that you will get next actually, which is available by default under that path. And Apache logs or HTTP logs which are available by default. These are also node manager, and HTTP logs which are available under this path actually, in the sense web server logs. Then after completing this, generally, what are the node manager logs which are available under this path? WL server home common under the node manager dot log which is going to be available. So what are the diagnostics, log files, and where it is going to be stored under this path which are going to be available. See these diagnostics framework which we will discuss in coming class. So these are all the default locations which are available under the all the log files which are available under the default locations. So this is about default file log file locations. Then after that, how to view the WebLogic server logs from the administration console? You can able to view from the Linux console, and you can able to view from the WLST, and also you can able to view from the administration console also. Why you can need to view actually? By using this, we can able to monitor about all the service instances and all the status at given time. Instantly, you can come to know what is the status of the WebLogic server instance. That time immediately we will able to go to the admin console, and you can able to view the log file. Log into the admin console, and expand the diagnostics node and click on the you know log files, and select the log file name and click on view. So in this way you can able to view the log file. See, instantly you can come to know the status of the WebLogic server log file. At given time, what it is going to be doing. In this way, you can able to view the log files from the WebLogic server admin console. Important interview question. What are the different types of logs which are available in the WebLogic server? Domain logs, server logs, HTTP access logs, transaction logs, DDBC logs, node manager logs, JMS logs, virtual host and diagnostics logs. All these are the different log files which are available in the WebLogic server. So then after that, what is the log rotation? Generally, how you can able to do the log rotation? See, log rotation which can able to do. What is the log rotation generally? The maximum number of log files which can create whenever rotating the log files. Generally, the rotation type it may be based on the size or based on the time. See, for example, in development mode, 500 KB is the default log file size. After it is reaching, it is going to be rotates the log file. Else, what will happen? It leads to the out of memory issues. So without a log rotating, to protecting or to preventing from those issues, generally, we are going to be rotating the log file. That you can able to do from the administration console. Log into the admin console, expand the environment node, and configure the server logs. So go to here, click on here. See first configure the logging. Click on the logging, configure the log file. By default, which is going to be installed under this path. If you want, you can change. And rotation by default, it's a size actually 500 KB. If you want, you can select by time also, which is disabled the time. And you can enter the rotation interval generally. When it is going to be begin the rotation time, and within the 24 hours, you have to be give a time interval. At that particular time, it is going to be recreates the log file under the specified path. And click on save button under this path. In this way, you can able to rotate the log files. So these are all the messages which we are able to get by using this, which we can able to troubleshoot. 100 to 199 generally cluster errors, and 200 to 399 T3 server or WebLogic server issues, and 400 to 499 generally socket in the sense socket binding errors, and 599 generally JVM errors, and 699 generally common errors, and these are all the errors which you can able to troubleshoot like this. This is about the WebLogic server logging and its default locations and where it is going to be available. Understood WebLogic server logging service? Hello? So then after completing that, we are moving into that virtual hosting. So what is a virtual hosting and why we are configuring in the virtual hosting? See, virtual hosting generally, it is nothing but what, set of host names to which WebLogic server instances or clusters respond, right? Whenever you use the virtual hosting. So generally, there are following type of virtual hosts which are available. Before we are moving into that, generally, what is the purpose of the virtual hosting? A virtual host is nothing but just like web server only. It is a method for hosting the multiple domains by using the single server. And also this is allows one server to share its resources, memory and processors and throughput without requiring any services configuration to use the same host name. So that is called what? Virtual host. So generally, what is a virtual host in the WebLogic? It is used to set up host names to which WebLogic server instances or clusters are going to be respond. And what are the types of virtual hosts generally? There are following types of virtual hosts which are available. Name-based virtual hosting and IP-based virtual hosting and port-based virtual hosting. What is name-based virtual hosting generally? In the name-based virtual hosting, uses the host name, right? Uses the multiple host names for the same IP address. That is called name-based virtual hosting. The configuration we will be able to see later. Then what is the disadvantage in the name-based virtual hosting? So while you are accessing over the web, there are many other host names which are available, same. So there is a security problem when you are accessing the name-based virtual hosting. There is a reason in real time we never configure the name-based virtual hosting, and we'll go with the IP-based virtual hosting. What is the IP-based virtual hosting? In the IP-based virtual hosting, it is used each site or each application which uses the unique alias IP address. That is called IP-based virtual hosting. These unique virtual IP addresses and virtual host names which is configured and will give by the network administrator to the WebLogic server administrator. After then we are going to be configured. And in real time we will able to do only the IP based virtual hosting only. And port based virtual hosting generally, in the port based virtual hosting what we can able to do, each time generally what will happen, in this virtual hosting it is used each site, it is going to be used the unique port number, right? Each site or each application will use the unique port number instead of unique IP address. IP address should be common, but every time which needs to be provide the unique IP address. So that is about the IP based virtual hosting. Those configurations we'll see later. Then, so by default, which are going to be available under this part, virtual host logs. Just now we have seen. See the virtual host name, whatever you will able to give. So under that, it has going to be available that access.log. And other important interview question: can WebLogic server act like as a web server? Yes, it is act like as a web server. When it is act like as a web server, whenever it has going to be rotates, or whenever it has going to be sorry, not rotates, whenever you are going to be configuring the virtual host, then only it is possible, right? It act like as a web server. Let's we see all the configurations in the virtual host: name based virtual hosting, IP based and port based virtual hosting. Go to here, so click on the deployments. I'm looking for any deployment is available or not here. I'm just installing one application. Right, so expand the environment node. So click on the virtual host. Here you will be able to see, click on the virtual host and click on new, and you can configure the name. So name based virtual host, right? So provide the name based virtual host, and click on OK. I have configured, and click on name based virtual host, and here you need to be provided these host names which will give by the operating system administrator. I'm just typing the example one. Right, so this is what actually shoppingcart.com, and click on save button, host name, and click on the targets. You have to be select the target and click on save button. Then after that, click on the deployments and click on this target application and click on the targets. See, you have to be change the target to the virtual host and click on save button, and then go to here and click on search like this. Let's see, I'm in my application. I'm able to access into the others applications information. So that is the reason there was no security in the name based virtual hosting. That is the reason. So we are going to be configuring in the real time IP based virtual hosting only. Just go to over there here. Go to here and click on the virtual host, and I'm just configuring. Click on new IP based virtual hosting and click on OK. And next, what I need to do, click on the servers and click on admin server, click on protocols, and click on channels and click on new, provide the channel name ch1 and select the protocol http, depends on the requirement. Click on next. Here you have to be provide each time unique IP address. I just now currently I provided the example IP address, but each time you have to be provide the different IP address, and click on next and enable all options. Click on next and click on finish button. Then after completing that, so click on the virtual host again, click on the IP based virtual host and go to the network access point. You just type the channel name here and click on save button and click on the targets and select the target and click on save button. Go to the deployments for testing purpose. Click on the application name and click on the targets. We need to change the target name based to IP based. Click on save button. And how you can able to test generally, you know, http:// 192.168.128.7:8003 shopping cart. So in this way you can able to access. Currently you cannot able to get because there is no port number which is configured with that IP address. And this is how you are able to configuring the IP based virtual hosting and testing. Then after that, port based virtual hosting generally. Click on the virtual hosting and click on new. I'm just configuring the port based virtual hosting. Click on OK. And next, what I need to do, click on the servers, click on the admin server, click on protocol and click on channels click on new, provide the channel name and select the protocol. Click on next and see this time what will happen. You have to be provide each time different port number, right? And click on next and enable all options with same IP address. Click on next, and if you want you can select the security also. Click on finish button. Then after that click on the deployments. Click on before that click on the virtual host. Click on the port based virtual host. Go to the network access point name. Provide the channel name. Click on save. Click on the targets. Select the target and click on save button. Next what I need to do, click on the deployments. Click on the shopping cart and click on the targets and select the target and click on save button. So in this way you can able to configure the port based virtual hosting, and how you can able to test http colon localhost colon 8009 slash shopping cart. So in this way you can able to write, because which is not running, right? There is a reason it is going to be throws the error. So in this way you can able to test the port based virtual hosting. So this is about virtual host configurations actually. So under this actually it is going to be asked the following questions. What is the virtual hosting and what is the purpose of the virtual hosting? And what are the types of virtual hosts which are available in the WebLogic server? And what is the name based virtual hosting and IP based virtual hosting and port based virtual hosting? And every interview they will ask the following question. What is the difference between the name based and IP based virtual hosting? And where by default which is going to be available the virtual host logs, and can WebLogic server act like as a web server? They are going to be asking the indirectly, did you configure the virtual host? And the sense, yes, it would be possible whenever it is going to be configuring the virtual host. That is about the virtual host concept in the WebLogic server. So then, yeah, any doubt? No doubt, right? Right. So which completes that. Next, we are moving into that version differences generally. What are the version differences? Let's we see the first, till 8.12 and 9.x, and later versions we'll able to see the differences actually. Go to here, version differences actually. See, first initially we'll able to see 8.12, 9.x, and later we'll able to see 9.x on 10.x and 11G to 12C we'll able to see. So the basic differences let's we see. Generally, there was no WLST in the 8.1, whereas in 9.x onwards, which we may have the WLST feature, which has added actually. The default JDK in 8.x generally, JDK 1.4, and from 9.x onwards, which are going to be support 1.5 and 1.6. And so in 8.x, first we need to be configure the connection pool, and later we need to be configure the data sources. Whereas 9.x onwards, we just configuring the data sources. Inside data source, which we may have the connection pools, whenever it required you can configure. And there was no lock and edit button in the production environment, 8.x, whereas 9.x onwards, which we may have the lock and edit button in the production environment. And generally in 8.x generally, so whenever there was in 8.x there was no update button in the administration console. From 9.x onwards, which was the update button, and there was no side-by-side deployment in 8.x. So from 9.x onwards, which we have the side-by-side deployment. In 8.x, any one of the application which is going to be failed, the application status comes into the failed. From 9.x onwards, it comes into that administrate. Still, you can able to access the administration console. And generally in 8.x regarding the JDBC, which we may not have, which does not have the separate directory structure to store the JDBC configuration. Whereas 9.x onwards, which we may have the separate directory for storing the JDBC related configuration. So there was a multi pools, whereas in 9.x onwards, which we may have the multi data sources, which was renamed. And so in the JMS generally what will happen, so there was no JMS module in the 8.x. After WebLogic Server 9.x onwards, which was introduced the JMS module for easing the administration purpose, and there was no separate directory to store the JMS configurations in the 8.x, whereas 9.x onwards, which we may have the separate directory for store the JMS configurations. There was no sub deployment. Here we have the sub deployment, and There was no store and forward agents. Here we have the store and forward agents. Those are all about the JMS differences. Then after that, next what we need to do, there was no execute queues actually in 8.x. There was execute queues in 8.x, whereas 9.x onwards, which does not have the execute queues, which we will have the work managers actually. Then in 8.x generally, whenever you want to, you have to be update the license.bge file for getting the clustering environment, whereas in 9.x onwards, it comes along with the installer file only. So these are the differences between 8.x and 9.x. Let's we see what is the difference between 9.x and 10.x generally. There are few differences. See, in 9.x generally the default JDK is a JDK 1.5, whereas 10.x generally 1.6 default JDK 1.6 JDK 1.6. And performance was introduced actually. There is a look and feel. Generally there was a normal look and feel in the 9.x, whereas 10.x onwards, which was introduced actually, which was improved. There was no a record button in 9.x onwards or 9.x, but Weblogic server 10.x onwards, which we had the record button in the administration console, right? So those are all some differences actually which we can able to get from 9.x to 10.x. There was huge differences actually from some of the major differences from 11.x to and 10.x. So the first one generally the default JDK generally 1.6 and 1.6 only same, and it supports 11 point or 10 point 1.10.3.7 generally which supports JDK 1.7 also. And second difference generally you know there was a password validation. There was no password validation in the security in 10.x, whereas 11.x onwards, which we may have the password validation in security. There was no request processing in the WLDF in 10G, whereas 11G onwards, which we have. And there is no coherence server in a 10.x, whereas 11.x onwards, which we have the coherence server and as well as coherence cluster. And there is no top link in 10.x, whereas 11.x onwards, which we may have the top links. And it is not supporting the SOA 10.x, and whereas 11.x onwards, which supports the SOA service oriented architecture. And it is not part of the Fusion middleware portfolio, and 11G onwards, it is part of the Oracle Fusion middleware portfolio. So these are all the some differences between the 10.x and 11.x. Let's we see what are the 12C features actually which is added between the 11.x and the 12C. It's very important interview question. Every interview they will ask what are the new features which are added into the 12C. So generally just go to over there. So what are those actually? For instead of GA mode generally which was introduced Oracle Universal Installer, and there was no console mode in the WebLogic Server 12C. We may have only two installing modes only, GUI mode and silent mode that was with response file. And that is about the first difference. And second difference generally so you can able to give like this. You want to install the silent mode, you can able to give like this. Then second difference generally BSU.sh for applying and maintaining the patches, BSU.sh in 11G, but from 12C onwards, which was renamed OPatch, Oracle Patch, which is available under this path. You can apply and unapply and roll back and unroll all the patches, right, by using this OPatch. That is second difference. Third one generally, domain configuration can be do by using the following methods only: WLST, unpack command, moven, and GUI mode. So generally the console mode domain configuration was removed in 12C. And this is about how you are going to be configuring the or setting up the environment variables in the 12C. Under this path generally you can able to execute the domain like this. Right, next what I need to do, other different. So generally in in WebLogic Server 11G, which does not have the node manager shutdown script, from 12 onwards, which may have the shutdown scripts. Generally, you can create the multiple domains, enroll for one node manager instance in a domain. In the sense, per domain, per node manager. So generally, which is possible after 12C onwards. Multiple node managers in the same machine, one node domain only per one node manager. That is not possible in a 11G. Again, node manager start and stop scripts, which are available under the domain home bin. So this is about the fourth difference. This is like per domain, all is available. Upgrade path for the node managers generally. And reconfiguration wizard, generally using this existing pre per domain wizard automatically updates in the 12C onwards. And generally high availability, there was dynamic servers and as well as dynamic clusters was introduced, which was not available in the 11G for improving the performance. And so high availability in the sense, JMS clusters, which we can able to set a target JMS server to the clusters actually, which is not possible in 11G. 12C onwards, which we can able to set a target dynamic cluster support to the JMS, and it add old server migration support, and also it is going to be add some other features in 12C, and old server migration for the dynamic cluster like this. And RESTful management for developers, generally, you know it is also supporting the cloud, naturally way to interface with the systems and hosted in the cloud, and it is also implementing in the mobile clients. So these are all the differences. And deleting the data source, generally, you can able to delete the data source using the REST, and there was three types of data source which are available in 11G onwards, and even 12C also, which was similar like this only. It is going to be supporting following APIs in the 12C. And WebLogic new features are the Exologic. Generally, these are the features which are going to be added. And Oracle Fusion Middleware, management, control, and optimization. All these features are which are going to be added WebLogic Server 12C onwards. And you can able to replicate, store for the WebLogic or WebLogic Exologic, and you can set the environment variables like this. And cooperative memory management for server recovery and graceful as system improves. And JDBC statement catchy, adapting according to the requirement. And data source connection syncing, generally what will happen? So whenever the memory pressure default threshold, is configured threshold, and event fired and pool is synced automatically. And whenever when goes above another event, it is fired to sync connection pool again, depends on the requirement. And also for monitoring the JVMs, actually memory analyzer tool, which was they were introduced the new feature called Java Mission Control and Flight Recorder. What they are doing, they are going to be monitored by using the flight recorder in the mission control. So these are about that WebLogic event producer. All these we can able to monitor by using the flight recorder. So these are all the new features which are added into the 12C. So very important interview question. Each interview they will ask what are the upgradations or what are the features which are added into the 12C. So this is about that differences between the versions. And then last one, how to recover. First, how to reset the admin password actually. So there is a process actually. Go to the admin console. How to reset the admin password. Log into the admin console, and click on My Realms, generally security realms, and click on My Realms, and click on users and groups, and click on user, which user you want to change actually. Click on password. I'm changing, and click on save button. Oh God, I need to be give. Now click on save button. So it has going to be updated successfully. So in this way, you can able to recover the admin, or recover the admin password whenever it gets forgot, or you need to be create the new password from the admin console. For this, for updating, you need to be rebound the server. This is how to recover the admin password. But I want to reset the admin password, in the sense I lost completely. Even I'm unable to access the admin console also. That time what I need to do, I want to re I want to reset the admin password. That time what is the process actually? Go to here. See, generally set the class path, go to the domain home bin like this, and generally username and password which is available under the default authenticator INI.LDIFT. So I need to be rename that one, and by using this syntax generally I can able to create the new username and password. And then after creating that, go to the servers home servers and server directory and remove the boot.properties file and recreate with the new username and password and save and exit, rebound the server instance. In this way you can able to reset the administration password. This is also very very important interview question. How to reset the administration password? Just go to here and just under this path I'm setting the class path. Then after that go to the security. Under this what I need to do, I'm just renaming MV space default authenticator. Under that it has going to store the username and password. Default authenticator BKP. And there is no file with that authenticator generally. By using this syntax actually, Java space Weblogic security utils admin account Weblogic and password Weblogic 3. I'm just giving that. Even you can change the username and as well as password also, both you can able to change. And at the end you have to be give a dot generally, which is going to be executed under the current directory only, and it is going to be created with new username and password with new one. The next what I need to do, go to the following path, servers, go to the admin server, and you need to take the backup of all the directories and remove cache data logs, stage temp and upload. Then I just removed all the directories. Then after that go to the security directory. Here I am just removing the boot.properties file. Then after that what I need to do, va space boot.properties, username is equal to Weblogic, password is equal to Weblogic 3. Press escape, save and exit. Like that you have to be configured for every managed server instance. Remove and create the new boot.properties file. Then go to the domain home bin and pwd and stop all the server instances, and there is no process running. See next what I need to do, how we can able to start weblogic.sh. This time it is going to be takes the new username and password from the boot.properties file. In this way you can able to reset the administration password. See it is going to be reads the boot.properties file, right, which comes into the running mode. Go to here, click on refresh button. If I am able to give old username and password, it is going to be, it cannot allow to access into the admin console. Welcome and see WebLogic. I'm just copying WebLogic 3. So then only it is going to be allows. Clear? How to reset and how to recover? Hello? Right. So this is about today's class lesson. And tomorrow what we will able to see? We'll see the performance monitoring. And then after that we'll moving into that performance tuning. And then we'll have the backup and recovery and real-time process and rest of the things which we'll able to see. Okay. Tomorrow I will upload all the videos. So tomorrow is all day for me and I will upload all the videos to you people. Okay. Right. So thank you. We will meet tomorrow at same time. Bye. And you can practice it. Tomorrow I will able to free and I can able to available with you more than half an hour. And if you have any doubts, we'll able to discuss. Right. Bye. Thank you. Bye.